Execration's turn to ban. Dire team ban. Execration's turn to ban.
Hello everyone, good evening and welcome back for our second best of 3 series for today of the Summit 6 Southeast Asia Qualifiers. Alright, so we have here Team Faceless, the team from Singapore with Black, versus the team from the Philippines, Execration, the Meepo God. My name is Hades, I'll be your caster for this series, and joining me, my guest co-caster, Danny. Hi, Danny, you there?
Hey, it's been a while since we've casted together, so here we are.
We are, and we're gonna ace it as usual. Come on, Danny, gotta have that faith, gotta hype.
We don't need faith if you know you're going to ace it, so I'm super excited for this series. So Execration, I don't know about you, did you manage to see Execration perform at MPGL for the Selangor Cyber Games?
Yes,
Yes.
I mean, everyone saw the Gabby going crazy in that puck with Arcane Rune. I'm not sure if you missed during the loading screen, when we were loading to the lobby, did you notice that Team Faceless and Team Execration both won the most recent Battle Cup, Tier 8 champions, both of them?
I did not look at that, but that's a good achievement, I guess.
Oh, come on, don't you want that fancy trophy? I believe if you win, you get that special emoticon now.
But it's an emoticon, and it doesn't transfer to everything else in my life. So it's not like I can talk to someone on the street and then just shove my emoticon in their face saying, I want Battle Cup. That's not possible, so it's not that great. But it's great for Dota, obviously. Yep.
Yes, it is, but I mean, here we are anyways. I mean, we're getting a bit off track, but we are back to the game where we have ourselves a bit of a draft. But I mean, okay, Team Faceless opening up with the Meepo ban. No surprise there. We all know, everyone knows Abed is the best Meepo in Southeast Asia, if not arguably, the world. Where ever since TI6, when when Complexity gave him that one Meepo appearance, he has never played a single Meepo game after, unless maybe in MPGL. Did he play Meepo then?
I think a Meepo did manage to go through, and I think it was actually the final game, if I'm not mistaken. I do remember seeing a Meepo at MPGL, and it was a big mistake, to say the least, to let that Meepo through. So I'm not surprised Meepo's banned, though. It's not just Execration that typically has Meepo banned against them, but a lot of SEA teams, because they've seen the Meepo trend, Meepo has been on the rise in SEA. It's not just Execration. Like in C, all the games that I've casted, Meepo is banned because we hardly see the hero, teams have to ban it because they don't know how to deal with it, especially if they're up against someone that can play a Meepo well.
Exactly, especially one at the level of Abed, where, I mean, if you've tried watching his player perspective from a replay, I actually get very, very giddy just trying to follow it. Like I have no idea how he's basically playing a piano right there on his keyboard. But I mean, if you've noticed as well this meta, ever since the nerf, did you notice that Sniper, Omni Knight, even such picks are starting to develop globally as well, not just to the Southeast Asian region?
Yes, I've seen a lot of Omni Knight actually, which was interesting to say the least, but he has actually found his niche, which, like, when was the last time we ever saw Omni Knight be a thing? Like, never. This has probably been the biggest rise in Omni Knight picks, to say the least. I'm not sure if we're going to see an Omni Knight this game. Maybe, maybe not. I would say Omni Knight, he's still very, very niche, but he has found a sort of a sweet spot in the current meta. Whereas Sniper, would you say Sniper could also be like we saw Sniper get showcased at MPGL. So I think during MPGL, a lot of strats sort of came up because all these top SEA teams were experimenting, right? We saw a lot of interesting picks during MPGL. That's when C teams started experimenting, and all the successful strats are starting to come on through. So I think this is just SEA finding their play style that makes them feel the most comfortable, because from what I've noticed compared to the rest of the world, C teams but they prefer to play when they have control of the game. The moment C teams start to lose control of the game, that's when the team's coordination begins to crumble, because teams have players that have such high individual skill that once they start falling behind, the weakness of SEA teams is that they sort of lose that team synergy because they don't have that advantage for their core players. Aside from me rambling on, though, I think we should start on the draft.
True, but I do agree with what you said earlier on, and in fact, I think that back to the sniper pick thing, it is actually seen as a counter to OD in lane, but usually you need to build a draft around it. But like you said, back to the draft. Excuse me. With Timbersaw pick, still not sure whether we will see this go down the mid or is this going to be an off lane kind of thing. But I mean, have you? Are you familiar with some of the Faceless players?
With the players.
Yes.
I think everyone knows Black. That's a no-brainer. If you don't know Black, you are too new to Dota. I know XY. I've seen a little bit of Nuts, but I have seen Jabs. So I say Jabs, Black, and XY. I'm not too sure about the other two guys. Aside from that, though, I really don't have enough intel on the players with the current patch to say what they can, what they can't play. Knowing Black, though, I've never seen Black play anything outside of carries, so maybe he'll be the easiest hero or person to analyze. Outside of looking into players, though, I think it's just Faceless keeping their options open. You can pick a Timbersaw early because he can run in all three lanes. You can put him safe lane, you can put him mid, you can put him off lane. So it's just them sort of saying that we want the Timbersaw, but we're going to keep our options open, see what Execration picks up, and then we'll sort of pick heroes to play around the Timbersaw, or we pick heroes that the Timbersaw can play around. With this Riki pickup from Execration, this can be a bit of a problem for Timbersaw, especially in lane, just because the smoke can catch him off guard. But assuming that he grabs those early points into reactive armor, Timbersaw shouldn't be that easy to kill, if not at all. I kind of want to think that the Riki pickup may also be a hero to sort of deal with that Warlock, especially during laning phase, because Warlock can't really do anything if he can't cast spells. He's got no escape mechanism, he has a little bit of a heal, but he is also very fragile during the laning phase. And assuming this is either a core or a support Warlock, he is very vulnerable up until he reaches level 4, 5, 6 even. So I think this roving Riki from Execration could really heavily punish that Warlock pick.
Indeed, and the Morph thing just pretty much secures the late game for Faceless. Also, I feel this should be a Timbersaw for Ice, because I think that is Daryl's trademark hero. And regarding the Warlock pick, well, this is starting to become a trend in the Southeast Asian region, where Warlock is starting to be played more as a position 4, which is why the Ogre Magi most probably will be going into the plus 5. And it seems like they're just lacking a Jabs hero, because if you notice that Jabs is the drafter, and I believe he used to play for Signature Trust? I think so.
I can't really comment on that. I'm not too sure. I could take a look for you if you'd like. But...
Oh, yes please, yes please.
Okay,
but I mean, also on the side of Execration, you guys already know DJ, formerly from Fnatic, and so far these guys have really burst into the scene with great talent. I mean, look at the bet, 8.3k MMR, astounding, higher than Miracle. And I mean, looking at the lanes, like the way Riki, what he can contribute, like this, he's probably one of those heroes which can help in killing a Morphling. But whether they have enough damage to kill a Morphling, that is the question. Because you look at Black, I'm pretty sure he's a very strong Morphling player, and on their side, the only thing which both teams kind of lack right now is really that mid laner. But then again, Juggernaut can easily go down the middle lane. So, alright. Waiting to see the final bans. Execration bans out the Drow. They do foresee that there is the potential that the Morphling can go down the mid lane. So Jabs has been brought in as the position 2 player for Team Faceless, if you guys are not aware. Like, okay, I did cast a couple of XY games a couple of months back, the Armageddon Game Fest, when he came back to Singapore for break before he went back to the UK to finish off his university degree. And that's where things got really interesting, like meeting him for the first time. Apparently we're somewhat also neighbors, like he lives down the road, like 15 minutes away from me. So that's pretty cool.
Okay, Jabs is from Signature Trust.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. Okay, so we're on a final pick here for Faceless, so this rounds out the draft nicely. Out of all these heroes from Faceless, is this just going to be that typical mid-Mirana?
Yes, but I realized that Mirana has fallen off, especially since the Aghanim Scepter nerf, where the cooldown is longer and you don't get the potential 4th Starfall anymore. Yeah. But a bad Storm Spirit, oh, this could be really crazy. If he snowballs out of control, this could be that hero which could easily lock down a Morphling who is caught out trying to split push. So that's, to a certain extent, I feel that's what Execration does pick up. I mean, that's the reason why you would pick up the Storm, so you can deal with the Morphling. Because usually a Morphling, like if you're usually want to be pressuring the side lanes very hard.
Not just that, they look at Faceless's draft. Like, what do they really have to control a Storm Spirit? You don't have the typical supports with the instant disables. There's a lot of things that Arbed's going to be able to avoid. So I really like this last pick from Execration, just abusing the fact that Faceless doesn't really have a guaranteed disable or lockdown for that Storm Spirit. And as well, going into that laning phase too, like, who would be the most threatening matchup here for a Storm Spirit?
Probably your ogre. I would, unless it gets to the level where your Morphling can instantly bring him, like, instantly shotgun him down. But that's very unlikely. And unless, of course, he somehow zips into an arrow as well. You know, you never count out where somehow he zips into a 5-second arrow. But that's very, very unlikely. But yeah, you're right. I do agree. Like, that's probably more reason why you would pick up the Storm Spirit on the side of Execration. And they have a really scary draft. Juggernaut's always a very stable pick. It's a very stable carry. And he's very flexible in the way he can itemize whether you want to fight, whether you want to gear for the late game in that Battle Fury build. But there we are. Okay, so is there any particular team you would favor who has a slightly stronger draft?
I have to look at Execration here. They've got solutions for everything, whereas looking at Faceless, there are a lot of loopholes in their draft, and Execration with the heroes that they've drafted, they can abuse those loopholes. Unless for somehow, not even for some reason, somehow if Faceless is able to come out of this laning phase practically unscathed and very farmed on their heroes, they might be able to bring it back. It's just that Execration, they've drafted a lineup that's strong during the laning phase and also going to be peaking pretty early when they start transitioning into that mid game. Like, if, for example, Arbed does not do well on the Storm Spirit, then all of a sudden you can fall back to Gabby because Juggernaut's able to transition well into a mid game just because he has access to Omni Slash and Blade Fury. Those are spells that are going to hit pretty hard up against some of these Faceless heroes. And also you can fall back to a Sand King because never ever count out a Sand King, especially if he manages to get either really good blink dagger timing or if he's managed to grab some really good levels. An early point into epicenter, I think, could practically ruin Faceless.
And the offlane Sand King is, I mean, Caustic Finale ever since it got buffed, like really, really strong. Look at the explosive damage, the slow, this is really good. And when he gets to the level of an Axe. But at the same time, I would agree with you about Execration's drafts being able to come online a bit, because at the same time Mirana Core is, especially in the mid lane, you want to get farm up your Axe, you want to farm your Blink. It takes a long time to do that, and this is where, I'm trying, but I still have to say, like, my gut tells me I have to support Faces. It's the home crowd for me, it's the home team for me, Danny. I have to.
It's okay, you can look at it like this, alright? You can support Faceless with your heart, but your brain can support Execration. It's fine to have favorites.
Decisions.
Fine to have favorites, but sometimes you gotta listen to your brain a little bit more, I'd say.
It is. And alright, so here we are in this Morphling against the Sand King lane. I'm not sure whether Rappy will be able to get much, seeing as he didn't get the Iron Talon. Not really sure that he's gonna get any point to the Sandstorm just yet, but I think he should be able to contribute quite a fair bit to Execration's draft, especially during the transition to the mid game.
If he doesn't get much in this top lane, so if he really wants to grab the early Blink Dagger, all he has to do is grab a few levels from the creeps, which, if you look at this lane, what is there to harass Rappy outside of just the Warlock here with the Shadow Word? There's really nothing that's going to be putting him under pressure, and especially once Faceless, they already know the Riki is up in the top lane as well. They can't really apply pressure because if they overextend, Sand King plus Riki can easily kill nuts on that Warlock. I was talking about this before, he's a fragile hero, he's easy to overextend with. So it really depends on how Faceless wants to approach this, as whether they want to give Execration this early game, but also farm on their cores, or do they decide to take the risk, try and get some work done, and open up this mid game for them. But it just looks at this point that Rappy's going to get free levels and a little bit of CS in that top lane, as long as Chemo's up here.
Yes, and because of the Caustic Finale, the good thing is for Black, even though they kind of messed up the creep equilibrium earlier on, it's going to keep pushing into their side. And it just feels like what they want to do is pretty much snowball very hard, because that's what they can do, especially with the Timbersaw and Bloodlust on Black. they actually have quite a strong nuke damage. I mean, Morphling is usually known as the hero, which is super strong for the late game, is only capable of the late game. But there are cases where we have seen Morphlings just pretty much snowball so hard that it's impossible to come back. And I think that's what they could be trying to aim for in the draft. And I mean, you can see it as well. XY is prioritizing securing Ice's lane, which is why he's kind of here to help them control, and I think they should be doing okay. But mid lane, we haven't talked about that yet. Mirana against the Storm. Mirana's actually matching pretty evenly with the Storm, but what do you think? Who is able to help, or who is going to be the one initiating for the team earlier?
For Execration, I don't want to say Arbed's going to be initiating. I feel like Arbed's going to spend a couple of extra moments farming. So anything, Execration, they're going to be falling back to Rappy for his initiation. And even to a certain degree, early on, I think they could rely on DJ with a couple of these disruption setups. It looks like they're going to try and pressure Ice here on this Timbersaw. He's got 4-5 poison stacks. God, that hurts really early on. It won't kill him, but Shadow Demon, I love the rise of Shadow Demon. He is such a strong support. Looks like mid lane, they're going to try and jump onto Arbed here. They're committing quite a bit. They're even going to buff him up, and this should be the death of him. Jukes into the tree line. He's going to not live, though. He did juke the arrow, but it's still first blood going for Faceless, which that's what they need. They need to slow down Arbed, because if you leave him alone, he's going to farm crazy fast.
Oh, but Jabs with Chemo and having a bit of a fight here, and Mirana did take the double damage rune, so we've had a bit more, just one more. Yes, he will get the second Starstorm just in perfect range, and the double damage making all the difference. So Jabs getting a nice kill. Oh, throwing the arrow, it lands into Abed. Oh, but the infused range up, he shouldn't get the kill here, would he?
No.
No way, but it brings him really, really low.
That's not what you want to have if you're a Storm Spirit. Just TPing in, having 3/4 of your HP chipped down. And this is going to force him to use a lot of bottle charges. Like, he has 0 bottle charges since he's TP'd in. Like, they're even going to bring Chemo in to refill the bottle. That's how much emphasis they're putting on that Storm Spirit to make sure that Arbed has a reasonable start. So what Jabs is doing right now, it's really good because it's keeping the Riki in the middle lane, it's keeping Arbed on his toes, and it means that up top, because Rappy doesn't have Chemo support, he has to sit further back just so that he doesn't get caught out from any shenanigans that could be coming out from Faceless. And also, down towards that bottom lane, like, Ice feels safe because he knows there's no Riki here.
He does, and the Morphling as well. Top of the CS chart, 32 and 10. Almost fully uncontested. Chemo's just here to just sap up some EXP again, provide a bit of a safety net. They will find that sentry and take care of it immediately. And you just look at Ice back at the bottom lane, like what he's doing and how he's harassing. Just creep skipping. He has 3 points in reactive armor. He really can't die in this lane, and he still has the salve available to him. So this is where I feel things get really tricky for Gabby. You look at XY, he's coming back into the lane again. Never underestimate the power of that bloodlust. So I do worry for Gabby and the way he's going to itemize this game, because he's going to have a really tough time trying to nuke down this Timbersaw. It's something which Execration also does not have.
Looks like Black's going to be ganked. 3-man gank, although Rappy's
Can they kill him? Oh no, he has the reform.
Oh, they're turning. One more hit. They get that return kill, and Black doesn't even die. Beautiful coordination coming out from Faceless, just abusing the fact that everyone was dropping so low from the damage distribution coming out from that Warlock. That was so good coming out from Nuts.
Fatal Bonds is a really strong spell. It's something which you realize that most teams are learning to play around. Like, I'm not sure if you watched the Fnatic game earlier on, where you combined it with a PA support and a Slaughter and an Axe. Heroes fall very quickly, no matter how tanky you are.
Bottom lane? Looks like Kevy's being pressured here.
Oh, yeah.
He's okay. He had to spin out, but look at Faceless. They're applying pressure everywhere.
Oh, but they want to keep on going. They will kill Gabby. I think they can. One more, yes. So Ice, he's getting really big. So if you're Execration, I mean, do you feel the pressure since you are currently 0 and 4?
Obviously, you're going to start feeling some pressure. Your Juggernaut's not doing too well. Arbed got a little pressured in the middle lane. Although, I'll say that, considering that Jabs hasn't really tried to put that much pressure onto Arbed for a while, he has stabilized, so maybe mid lane's still okay here for Execration, but bottom lane, this seems like it's a complete lost cause unless they bring down someone else to at least help Gabby in that bottom lane, because Ice, with how it's going, with all this backstabbing on the creep wave, he's level 7. He's got Chakram, he's maxed out reactive armor. Execration are not going to be able to kill him unless they invest more energy, more heroes, more firepower into killing him. But if you do that, that means that you're sacrificing mid lane, you're sacrificing off lane. The safety of those two lanes are dependent on that roaming Riki. Like so far for Execration, the one time they tried to use Riki in the top lane, it backfired because they couldn't kill their target. And I think this is where Execration, they've got to be a little bit more careful with their draft, because early on when they don't have these level 6s, they are starting to lack that damage to burst down Faceless. Oh, and Gabby being chased by Ice. Like, if you're a jug and you see this sort of stuff happen, like, obviously your morale is going to be down.
So sad right now. Like, he is rich enough. He's actually out farming the Juggernaut in his own lane. That's how much pressure he's been applying. Like, level 4 reactive armor.
Oh gosh. XY forcing Abed to TP back.
That's really big. And Nuts, is he level 6? Yes, he is. So, oh no, so he's almost level 6. So he's gonna be able to start grouping up soon with his team. With the Timbersaw, they can start pushing for an objective together. And that's why I feel things get really scary, because you look at the Mirana middle lane. She's 49-11 to the Storm's 47-3. She had a kill earlier on, I believe, and an assist. She already has the point boost to 8 minutes and a half in. So with the level 6 and you start grouping up taking towers, that Aghanims actually comes online way quicker than it should. Meanwhile, bottom lane, Kimo gets a quick tower deny. He's gonna try to TP out, cancelled. But do they have the dust? Yes, they will. Kimo looks like he will go into the chakra. Oh, Ice is just having a field day in this bottom lane.
Level 8, 9 minutes into the game. That is absolutely absurd. Execration are going to pay for this, especially when they've just left Ice as is. Like, if you think about it, they're going to assume Ice is the biggest target. No, it's not just going to be Ice. There's also going to be Jabs, who's going to be on the Mirana with this Aghanim Scepter soon. Heck, I would even argue that because these two cores are so big, that this is going to be enough attention to draw them away from Black, who Black is farming insanely well as well. He's 64 CS in that safe lane. Even though he's going up against a Sand King, Black feels safe as ever to just do whatever he likes up here. He's not pushing Rappy out of lane, but if your team is doing this well, I'm actually worried about Execration in this mid-game. They might get steamrolled if they don't start getting some of these levels, or if they don't start applying some sort of pressure, because they are going to start losing towers quicker than they can actually take Facelesses.
I feel one of the ways they can find a way back into this game is they need the disruption with a really good Soul Catcher. The Soul Catcher has to land on a specific target, which they will, really lock down on the disruption into the Burst Strike and the Epicenter. That's what they can do. But otherwise, Faceless really isn't giving them the chance for that, because knowing the way XY and Nuts play, they like their early pressure. They like the fast-paced game. So that's why they're so confident about picking up these support heroes and going very fast from the beginning. But back to your point, you're saying that Black is very tough to kill. I think he should be feeling a bit worried soon. Rikimaru is the top lane. With the Sand King, they could try for something here on Black. He is only at 500 HP.
Rappy's pretty low too though, so if there's any sort of TP support, there might be a return kill, which is something that you don't want to have happen. And they do spot Nuts out, so the moment they see the support, they have to leave. They can't do anything just because you can drop the rock at any moment.
Oh wow, bottom lane, that's going to be a tier 2 going the way of Team Faceless. 10 minutes in, that's really quick. And Juggernaut really does not have any farm. We haven't seen an Omni Slash yet. He's still stuck at level 7. But hold on, looking at Ice and Jabs, the arrow comes out, it's going to land into the Siege card. The Ignite's going to land onto Gabby, but I think he can just spin this one off and he may be forced to TP out if they decide to chase for him.
Look at the control on the map going in favor of Faceless. They've completely controlled that bottom lane. They're starting to take that tower. Oh, they
lane on the Chaotic Offering. Oh, they find the Riki so quickly. The sentry just happened to be there. And the arrow's gonna fly. It won't land into anyone. Looking at Gabby, he is down there, the river, right next to the Tier 1 tower as it goes down. So that's just Gabby helplessly watching as... this laning stage, I don't want to sound biased, but it looks like Faces are running away into the mid game with ease.
That's not biased, that's what we're seeing. Every single lane is being controlled by Faceless. Bottom lane, Execration don't want to even look at that lane. The only one down there is Abed because he has an escape mechanism. Middle lane, there are 2 heroes. Execration don't want to show their faces. There are 3 in that top lane. Execration still don't want to show their faces. If they let this game just go as is, there's going to be such a huge gold discrepancy.
Oh, they're going to try middle lane.
Can they kill Ice 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 though? He is
Four heroes.
so tanky. He's actually got max
Oh,
charges, but
okay, that was really close. He almost died just at the very end. They committed so many heroes just to bring Ice 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 down. And it does bring them actually quite a lot of gold. Just that single kill alone brought them an 1100 gold swing in Execration's favor. So this is... I feel this is where they understand they're really far behind, but at the same time, they still have the heroes which can help them come back into this. Like I mentioned, the disruption and Soul Catcher into the epicenter is what they need to rely on for now. And you look at the Sand King, he's still nowhere close to getting that Blink Dagger just yet. Black's already just completed his Lincoln Spear. This is where things get a bit tricky in terms of trying to kill that Morphling. And you look at Jabs, he's gonna have that Aghanim Scepter up in just another 800 more gold. But looking at Abed, I mean, we haven't talked about him for a while. Do you think he goes straight for a Bloodstone here, or do you think like he should go for an Orchid just for a bit more kill potential?
he needs stats, unfortunately. There is going to be so much burst damage coming up from Faceless. If you can't live, that's going to be end. And look at Rappy in that middle lane, almost dying to Jabs. Looks like they do get the disruption off to mitigate some of the damage, and that was a really good play. He may have actually died to the damage coming out from those creeps. So they keep Rappy alive, but with how the game is going, he has to go Bloodstone. Abed needs these stats because he's sitting at 1k HP. Look at what Faceless has. How many spells do they have that could annihilate him from 100% HP to 0? There's so many spells that they could abuse as long as they're able to just lock him down. So it would have to be a Bloodstone. There is no doubt. There's no doubt about it. There's no use in a Storm Spirit if he's dead.
Now looking at Team Faceless, they're going to control the enemy jungle. There's only one outer tower left on the side of Execration. Team Faceless have secured so many objectives 14 minutes in. The network graph is not looking fancy, but hold on, Ice trying to go here into DJ, who will go for a TP out. And yeah, back to the network graph, it's almost at the 10k mark. You look at the experience earned, it's very, very narrow, but it's just half the items. And in fact, Jabs has his Aghanims well on the way in just the next creep wave, and they're gonna go for this tier 2 very, very soon. This is really scary, but any other way which Execration can try to take a fight here?
They cannot fight Faceless 5-on-5. They know that if they try and fight them 5-on-5, Nuts drops the rock, and that's when all hell breaks loose. Like we saw Execration, they are at their strongest right now. If they can pick off Faceless heroes when they are isolated, when they're separated, when they're farming by themselves. They're grouped up together. How are you supposed to kill anyone? You had to commit both the Purge as well as the Sand King Epicenter to kill off just a Timbersaw. Like if you're investing that much to kill one hero, heaven forbid you kill anyone
going
else.
in, the Chakram flies out. I think they may want to go for this. They pop the Moonlight Shadow and they will just wait and just back off a bit. So at the same time, 15 minutes in, all the tier 2s are gone. Ice is just arrogantly walking around the enemy jungle, and Execration, they're not even in a position where they're able to smoke to try for a gank. And now you look at Black, he's just going to get casually healed up. The rock is available already for Nuts, and he has a Midas 15 minutes in. You're talking about a very, very poor Warlock. And nope, it looks like they want to try for Jab, for Chemo, I mean, and yeah, the Chakram flies out to get one very quick kill.
Rest in pieces. You'll be missed, Chemo. It looks like at this point, Faceless, they've just completely run away with the game. There is no way I see Execration being able to take this back easily. Their one saving grace would be high ground attempts coming up from Faceless. Like that's when teams start becoming very vulnerable because they don't have the same vision that Execration's gonna have access to.
Oh dear, Jab just missed that arrow, but with the double damage run, they will look to try and take this Roshan. So this is where things get really, really scary after they get the Aegis, because that's when they go high ground. Earlier on, when they killed the Timbersaw, that was without the Hood of Defiance on the Timbersaw and without the point booster. It was just a Soaring and Arcane boots with just a cloak. And now with 1200 HP and the completed Hood of Defiance, I really think it's almost impossible for them to kill this Timbersaw unless they really dive and commit a lot for him. And I bet he's gonna get that, you know, his Bloodstone up in a bit. Gabby is still trying to build items. He's still trying to get towards that Battle Fury. Like he's just on the Perseverance with Ace Boots and a Ring of Bassi.
It seems like they're just banking on the fact that they're going to be able to drive this game longer and longer so that their carries are able to actually transition into something reasonable. This could work, but the chance of them being able to survive high ground are so slim. Like, they were going to commit the ult there just to kill off the Jug, but they said no, it's okay. We're going to save it for high ground. If we don't have it for high ground, that's a huge setup that's not going to be available. You can tell Jabs, he's looking for blood. Can he find anyone? There's no vision, so he doesn't actually manage to spot out the Storm Spirit that TP through. I am so worried here for Execration. If they can't defend high ground, I would say that more or less could be game. Because if you can't defend high ground, there is really no second chance for Execration. Their heroes are so far behind. Like, their net worth charts, the difference in gold. It is, the Mirana is more farmed than the Storm Spirit. Like, all the cores on the side of Execration are behind Faceless cores by a huge margin. The closest is Abed, but that's the Storm.
They're looking for Chemo. Is he in range? Yep, they do find him. Chemo, you're not going to run anyway. Trying for the tricks of the trade will immediately go down. And it's 8-1 in 18 minutes. And it doesn't seem like a very active game, but that's because Team Faceless are all about objectives. And this is just really scary. Gabby's still trying to build that Battle Fury. He has the Broadsword, but not the Claymore yet, and he needs 1300 more gold for that. And this is where they will just start bashing away into tier 3, and this Morphling really hits like a truck with the completed Lincoln Spear. 175 a click. This doesn't feel like an 18-minute game. I'm not sure why, but I thought it would almost seem like this game has already gone on for at least half an hour. So they will start bashing away. Hopefully, I bet it can do something with this Bloodstone. They'll start chipping away at the melee racks. Black waveforms a bit too far forward. Hoping the epicenter, they will go right now, getting the burst strike onto Jab. Now Abed, they're trying to finish him off. The chaotic up is going to come up, bashing into 3 heroes. Really big trick of the trade. And he will just dodge it for now. But Chemo will have to try and run. But the sentry is down here. Looks like he will not. Oh, okay, he will finally go down to the last Mirana Starstorm. But Black one charges, and they will just go ahead to secure themselves a melee racks with this huge golem. But Timbersaw at the backline, ice, killing off DJ, and that will be the melee racks gone. They will just go straight to the middle lane, take themselves a second lane of racks.
And this was what I was talking about with the Rock. This disengage coming out from the Warlock is so good going up high ground. That's why they didn't want to waste it earlier in the top lane just to kill off a Juggernaut, because they knew that, for example, if Execration tried to pull a play like that, Nuts would always be their backup plan. And with nothing left here for Execration, with no epicenter, I think that might just be the final hurrah. They've got no ult left. They have no damage.
The multicast is going to be there. Sanking goes down immediately. And there's absolutely nothing they can do. The Golem is still alive. It will finally go down now, but the melee racks will go down in the middle lane. But Gabby trying to go for a blade freedom. Mirana gets killed to the Ricky. They're trying to go into Jabs, but no, the Aegis hasn't even gone yet. And now they will find Gabby. One more hit. Black, no, he's taking a bit too much damage. And Jabs, no, with the Aghanim Starstorm, it will be a GG. 20 minutes in, the Aegis will now finally pop.
That looked like such a picture-perfect game coming out from Faceless. I was expecting a little bit more coming out from Execration, but it just got steamrolled, and a lot of it happened because of how the laning phase went. Every time Faceless made a movement, it was always correct. They found the right openings. Like, even First Blood, you can tell that Execration, they were desperately trying to grab that kill. They couldn't get it. They got punished from the Warlock pick, which was rather surprising.